It's me talk about this.
Hello, I'm Rich Preston. Welcome to the programme. And we
There's a-
start in
there was a
Thailand, where there's been a shooting at a school in the capital, Bangkok, leaving
a
several
mass
people
shooting
killed
in
and many
Bangkok,
more injured. Police say the
Thailand.
suspect, a student, has been found dead in a classroom. This happened in the Nonthaburi district, about 15 kilometres northwest of the city centre. We can go straight to there now and speak to our Southeast Asia correspondent, Jonathan Head. Jonathan, what can you tell us?
Well, Rich, it's been a pretty grim scene here. You can see the gate of the school over there behind me. This is a very large school. We're not quite sure the number of pupils. It runs into the thousands. It's a secondary school. We've seen ambulances continue to come out. The shooting started about 2.5 hours ago. It's now at least an hour and a half since the shooter, who turns out to be a 14-year-old pupil at the school, appears to have turned a gun on himself and shot himself, and he's dead. He's among 7 who are now known to have been killed in this incident. We've spoken to a student here who said she saw him going from classroom to classroom, firing into the classroom. She saw her own teacher getting shot before she got out with her friends. So all the pupils have been evacuated, but they have still been bringing injured people out. We've seen ambulances coming out at regular intervals, and the police are inside now, trying to ascertain, obviously, exactly what happened. But of course, they'll be looking into the background of this 14-year-old student and what his motives might have been.
Jonathan, what do we know about the conditions of those who were injured?
We know that some are quite serious, but we don't know how serious. I mean, obviously, it's gunshot wounds. Some of them could be quite serious at the moment. And at this stage, we're not sure these numbers are absolutely final. The death toll certainly has gone up quite a lot from initial reports. And there's a lot of ambulances here. You know, people are getting treatment very, very quickly. I mean, we're not in the centre of Bangkok here. We're just outside on the outskirts in Nonthaburi, but there are hospitals nearby. There were ambulances and paramedics on the scene very quickly. You can imagine it was a very, very distressing scene. Of course, all the pupils who were evacuated were in a very distressed state. There were a lot of parents coming down here as well. And of course, there will now be questions about how a 14-year-old got hold of, it was a handgun. But officially in Thailand, it's very difficult to get a gun license. You know, it's very hard to do that. But we know there are a lot of illegally owned guns in the country, very high numbers. There's a lot of gun crime. And we've had other school shootings in the recent past. There was one just in February in the south of the country where politicians raised the questions, you know, how is it that a 14-year-old in this case, or in that case an older student, can get hold of a gun so easily? So inevitably those questions will be asked again about how effective Thailand is at controlling the possession of guns.
Jonathan, have we heard much from officials in the country?
We've been hearing mostly from the police chief, and that's mostly factual, but we've seen officials from the Prime Minister's office here, so we expect that Prime Minister Anutin Charnvirakul will come down here at some stage later, and I expect he will speak for the government for their thoughts on this. But I suspect a lot of Thais will be a little bit sceptical because there have been promises in the past to control gun ownership. Some of your viewers may remember a terrible incident 4 years ago when there was a shooting by a former police officer at a nursery which killed dozens of children, and there were pledges then to tighten up gun control. I think we've seen very few signs that anything has really happened. There's not been significant changes in rules or enforcement.
Jonathan, Bangkok is a popular destination for tourists, travellers, holidaymakers. Tell us about this particular area this shooting happened in.
I don't think many tourists would come here, although it is very close to the capital. I mean, Nonthaburi, but it's a big suburban town on the outskirts of Bangkok. A lot of people commute from here into the city. It's quite a big economy in itself. I mean, Bangkok dominates the Thai economy to an extraordinary extent. The only other really dynamic parts of the economy, of course, are the tourist economy. So you've got huge numbers of people in the capital, and you have these very big clusters of urban residential areas outside the city. This is one of them.
And Jonathan, tell us a bit more about the school.
I know, I have to say, we've just got here. It's a very large school. We're still trying to ascertain the numbers. So
There is new U.S. intelligence that is indicating Russian President Vladimir Putin could try to test NATO's unity with a limited attack on a NATO allied country. The assessments warn that Russia could conduct a small-scale incursion or a cyber attack designed to test NATO's commitment to Article 5. Article 5 states that an attack on one member is an attack on all. Joining me now is Zach Cohen. Zach, what does this assessment tell us specifically about what Putin might be planning?
Yeah, Jake, it effectively lays out that there's a window of time where Vladimir Putin believes he could test and see how much he can get away with effectively as far as encroaching on NATO territory, challenging the member states to their commitment to Article 5 to defend an attack against one is an attack against all. And that is really predicated on this idea that U.S. officials and NATO officials believe that Putin is growing frustrated by taking serious losses in the war with Ukraine and could move to shift his tactic by focusing on NATO in particular. He does see potentially an opportunity here to expose some fractures within the alliance and could particularly target some of the smaller, less strong member states in an effort to see how much action he can get away with before crossing that Article 5 threshold. And I'm told that this intelligence does suggest the most likely targets would be places like the Baltics or Poland, places where we've actually seen some recent Russian activity.
Yeah, drones and cyber attacks.
Exactly.
Right?
And
yeah.
over the last several years, we've seen a pretty steady pace of that kind of activity, but this intelligence lays out various scenarios in various ways Putin might want to test the alliance's strength. Now, the one sort of other alternative here is that if Putin is able to secure some sort of a face-saving agreement of some kind to end the war in Ukraine, there is potential there for him not to have motive for shifting his attention elsewhere. But again, the talks, the dialogue between Russia and Ukraine, intermediated by the United States, has stalled, we're told. So it's really up in the air here, and we are told senior officials are very concerned about this very real threat.
What's your reaction to this reporting?
I think it has to be taken seriously. The Russians have been playing around with incursions for the last couple of years. In last September, they used an armed incursion to go after Poland. In May, they used an armed drone to go after Romania. And just this last week, an explosive-laden drone was found in Germany that belonged to a Russian intelligence team. So these are real threats. And Putin will use either cyber or use drones or could possibly even use a military incursion to be able to test NATO and test Article 5 and whether NATO will respond. I think we have to take this very seriously.
And obviously at the center of all this is the war with Ukraine. Does this tell you anything or give you any indication of how Putin is thinking about this war?
Yeah, I think Putin is frustrated because he can't find an off-ramp to deal with the situation in Ukraine. He's taken quite a hit. And I think he's looking for other ways to try to assert Russian aggressiveness. So it all fits together. I think we have to take this intelligence assessment as a real threat to NATO. And we have to respond. We're going to have to respond. And right now, because of our missile systems and our supply of weapons being down, this is a vulnerable period for the United States.
Does Putin look at the U.S., bogged down in Iran with this missile defense issue, and see that this may be his moment to strike?